The rise and fall of ESPN. ESPN was and still is the biggest sports network on earth. It is the standard for all things sports. And while it was once king, both by the numbers and by the product, that's no longer really true. Now, I do have some hope for its future, but today I want to walk you through the rise and fall of the greatest sports network ever created, ESPN. How did it get to the top, like the very top, and what were the decisions that led to its demise? How did it become so uncool? Today, we'll find out. Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Now, I love the Best Ball Mania tournament, especially since it now has a $3 million prize for first place. But I'm even more excited for their new weekly contest, Weekly Winners. It's the same best ball format, so you draft your team once, and Underdog tallies your best possible score every week. But the payouts happen every single week during the football season, which means you have a chance to win $20,000 every single week this season. And if you want to play against me in a private draft, I'm dropping a link in the description. It's a $10 entry, 18 rounds with 12 people playing. Slow draft format, so you have several hours to make your picks. My private draft starts once the league is full, so use my link below, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. And again, check out Weekly Winners. Let's begin with the creation. Adam and Eve had sex. The creation of ESPN. It's hard to imagine a world where sports info isn't readily available, where your only options were this.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Or this.
I've got this song that I holler to, and it is entitled Somebody Loves Me, and it goes like this.
In present day, sports fans can tune into a dedicated sports channel like ESPN, FS1, or NFL Network, get score updates via numerous apps, content within their sports books, tune into idiots like me on social platforms, listen to a billion sports podcasts, and enjoy around-the-clock coverage of their favorite games, highlights, and analysis. It's honestly a challenge to just avoid sports, but it wasn't always this way. Before the launch of ESPN, sports were merely a feature on television, not yet a staple. So let's take a trip down memory lane and explore what sports television looked like before the rise of ESPN.
A few surprises around the NFL this afternoon. Taking a look now at those scores. Buffalo edged the Patriots by a point to take sole possession of first place in the AFC East today with a 29-28 win. John Leipold's third field goal of the day, a 47-yarder, was the difference.
The Florida Gators are ranked number 15 on the AP poll and number 19 on the UPI poll.
I asked Bradshaw, a very religious man, if he felt that the Lord was with him in the huddle.
Sports coverage on TV used to be a rare commodity. Fans eagerly awaited landmark events such as the Olympics, World Series, Super Bowl, and championship boxing matches, rare opportunities for fans to witness their favorite athletes in action in between episodes of I Love Lucy and The Twilight Zone. Fans relied on regional broadcasts and local stations to watch games and keep track of scores. If you lived in a different region from your favorite team, you were usually following them via the newspaper. Gross. To supplement the limited coverage, network television introduced sports programs like
ABC's Wide World of Sports.
But still, those were just brief programs, not wall-to-wall coverage. Television news programs dedicated a brief segment to sports, presenting the latest scores, highlights, and news from the sports world. Imagine waiting through hours and hours of coverage about JFK, the moon landing, or Watergate to find out if the Yankees won or not. Watch one local news sports segment right now, today, and you will be instantly thankful for all of your options.
Switching to Ball State men's tennis, it seems every week they have a player. Later, he gets the rebound, passes it to the man, shoots it, and boom goes the dynamite.
There were no dedicated channels providing round-the-clock sports coverage, leaving fans hungry, starving, yearning for more. Then came 1979. No. The year 1979. ESPN was the brainchild of Bill Rasmussen, a former radio executive who envisioned a 24-hour cable channel dedicated entirely to sports. With an initial investment of $9,000, Rasmussen founded the network and secured financial backing from Getty Oil. Now, I'm no historian, but I believe 1979 was a big year for domestic oil. And there's nothing wrong with getting into business with oilmen. Just ask Paul Dano from There Will Be Blood.
When do we get our money, Daniel?
Or the Live Golfers. On one fateful day in September 1979, ESPN went live, broadcasting a handful of sporting events, including a slow-pitch softball game and a professional rodeo. One of the pivotal moments for ESPN came in 1980 when it secured the rights to televise the NCAA basketball tournament, now known as March Madness. Men everywhere took time off of work, scheduled vasectomies around the tournament, and neglected their families to watch a bunch of college kids they had previously never heard of. At that time, the only people paying that much attention to college students were the Ted Bundys of the world. ESPN, still better than Ted Bundy. Now, ESPN also invested in broadcast rights for the major sports as well as original programming. Their flagship show, Sportscenter, became iconic, providing fans with highlights, analysis, and interviews.
For only the second time in NFL history, the league's most valuable player award goes to a defensive player, none other than linebacker Lawrence Taylor of the New York Giants.
Miami Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino may be the most awarded player in any single season in NFL history. His 48 touchdown passes and his 5,000-plus yards passing now stand as NFL records.
Don Mattingly, the Yankee first baseman, set a new American League record by hitting home runs in 7 straight games, then tied the Major League record in this game with Texas to make it home runs in 8 straight games.
The Lakers' Kareem Abdul-Jabbar beat San Antonio at the buzzer in Los Angeles last night.
Our defense all week, we felt like Rodney Dangerfield. We didn't get no respect.
Wow, I can almost feel the Reaganomics and Quaaludes pulsing through me.
Hey, Roger Clemens, where can I catch a rocket?
In your face.
Yo, Charles Mann, where's a Super Bowl winner on Sunday nights?
In your face.
ESPN, your face.
That's how ESPN started. Its rise to become a household name was really something else. How did it do it? Being the place to consume sports is one thing, but ESPN developed into an iconic brand when it cultivated talent and personalities, making viewers feel like they had someone they could relate to. People talking about the games they had just watched is what turned ESPN into the definition of sports coverage. The golden era of ESPN was marked by the rise of charismatic anchors who became synonymous with SportsCenter.
It's not CNN, this is the ESPN SportsCenter. What is that voice? Who is this guy? I'm not Nick Charles. I'm Chris Berman, and we'd like to welcome into our fold from CNN, coming over here to the SportsCenter, Dan Patrick, and I'm sure you will enjoy him as maybe you did before at some other place. Welcome aboard, pal.
Thank you, Chris. It doesn't get any better than this.
These individuals possessed an unparalleled passion for sports and a unique ability to captivate audiences with their on-screen presence. Names like Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Stewart Scott, Chris Berman, and Linda Cohn became household favorites, setting the bar high for future sports broadcasters. ESPN's heyday was punctuated by a series of catchphrases that became part of the sports lexicon. These memorable lines, often delivered with charisma and flair, added a layer of entertainment to the SportsCenter experience. Who can forget Chris Berman's boisterous
sends this one back, gone!
during the home run derby, or Stewart Scott's booyah after a sick-ass highlight.
Booyah!
must be jelly because jam don't shake like that.
The scoring race between Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson was as tight as a ring on a fat guy's finger.
You know this kid is as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Well, it's something like that. These catchphrases became cultural touchstones, further solidifying ESPN's position in pop culture. There was a time when NFL Primetime with Chris Berman and Tom Jackson was the go-to show on NFL Sundays. Back when you couldn't see every touchdown on Red Zone or Twitter, TJ and Boomer were your trusted guides to show you everything you had missed throughout the day. And what set that show apart, as well as so many shows, was their incredible rapport and back and forth, with Berman coining some of the most outrageous catchphrases and idiosyncrasies that we still use today.
But now all of a sudden, what? Warner to pass, but it's James Harrison, Defensive Player of the Year. Rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. He could go all the way.
Ty Law. He fought the law and the law won.
If you don't think Berman was an inspiration for all of my dumb nicknames on this show, you are mistaken. The MLB had its flagship show when Baseball Tonight premiered in 1996, showing fans rapid-fire news, scores, homers, and web gems that condensed a day's worth of baseball into a readily consumable half hour.
B.J. Surhoff sends it deep to center field, back and goes, oh, Lofton! He leaps, plants on the wall, and makes the catch. Unbelievable. Look at this. The foot and the climb.
I don't know that people realize just how difficult that is and how much talent that takes to be able to pull something like that off.
We were treated to incredible This is Sportscenter commercials. Remember these?
Hey, what's up?
That's exactly what Jordan would have picked.
Morning, LT.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, thanks. None of these are mine. Tomorrow. Hey, Miles.
Miles.
Excited about the big game, I'm sure?
It might be cold.
But you got all that fur, so you should be all set.
Blitz?
Everyone makes a big deal out of the SportsCenter catchphrases, but honestly, we make this stuff up right on the spot.
Welcome aboard Flight 149 for right field. This is a non-chewing flight.
It's never iffy if it's Griffey. That blows.
It must be a homer, Simpson, because the pitcher just went, oh!
And because the catchphrases are so organic, it keeps the show fresh.
4! I am the most popular player in all the land. Yahtzee!
Highlight screening area, so that's where we get all the games that are played that night, down in a 90-second or 2-minute clips or whatever you're going to see on SportsCenter right now. This hallway, it runs between, both rooms. If you want to get from the control room to the screening, then this is the hallway you'd take. Questions or anything? I can answer whatever you want about the place. Nothing?
ESPN even took a chance on a scripted football series called Playmakers, which lasted just 11 episodes in 2003 and briefly became the highest rated show on the network, aside from NFL and college football games, but was eventually canceled due to pressure from the NFL, which didn't like the way the show portrayed the more negative aspects of the off-the-field life of professional football players.
Look around. All this is because of me.
And we made this together.
Oh, please. I made it. You furnished it.
Playmakers didn't last, but in 2007, ESPN got into the miniseries Game with the Bronx is Burning, an 8-part show that chronicled the Yankees during the chaotic summer of 1977 in New York City. The point here is to show that ESPN had its bread and butter, and it was evolving with the times. There were other strange but beautiful shows that popped up in the 2000s, like Stump the Schwab, where sports fans would compete in a trivia contest with Howie Schwab, who was essentially a human encyclopedia.
Guy Carbonneau has won 3 Stanley Cups with what 2 NHL teams?
Le Habitant, the Montreal Canadiens.
Correct.
And the other one is the Dallas Stars.
That is correct.
ESPN truly felt like a well-rounded network in those days. You got live games, you got highlights, you got analysis from trusted reporters and pundits, entertainment from those guys as well, and some offbeat shows for people who had nothing better to do in the middle of the day. Now, I can't overemphasize that the cornerstones of ESPN's success during its heyday was its diverse cast of personalities. I mentioned some, but add in Rich Eisen, Dick Vitale, Scott Van Pelt, who is still there, and John Buchagras, who created a sense of familiarity and camaraderie, building connections with viewers and establishing a loyal fan base.
For good times being with you. Coming up, the Pilot Pen Championships that has Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal featuring I hope you enjoyed the puppet show. Coming up next on SportsCenter.
After SportsCenter. Oh my friend. You're my friend, Kenny. For SportsCenter, coming up next, the Pilot Pen Tennis Championships featuring Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal. Oh my sweet death! Son of a Kenny?
Put simply, these people were so damn good, so fun, that they made us care about teams and games and plays we never normally give a shit about. This was before podcasts, before YouTube. They were our trusted sports ambassadors, and they spoke to us in plain English like you would around your closest friends, your family, or your coworkers. We all wanted to be one of those anchors or be around them. There was even a short-lived reality show that proved ESPN was the place to be. It was called Dream Job, and it allowed aspiring sports journalists to display their abilities and demonstrate their passion for sports broadcasting on the biggest stage.
Bonds would rank in the top 30 in the league, even if he did not have one hit this season.
You said he was top 30 in the league, but in what category?
The only thing that was missing was a bag of chips and a pillow for me because you were that boring.
I cut Joe Wojcicki. Joe
Wojcicki, you've been cut.
In the end, one went home. Now the next six rise up into the spotlight to show us what they've got.
That show was ESPN's attempt to keep pace with reality TV at the time, because, you know, sports isn't real enough.
Right there is a vivid picturization of the excitement attendant.
That show and all that I mentioned goes to show ESPN was the king of sports television. It started and it ended there. Their trust with and access to athletes gave us so many classics. In terms of television audience, ESPN peaked in 2011 with 100 million TV customers paying for access to the channel. It's hard to condense 30 years of dominance, but that's what ESPN was from the 80s to the early 2010s. Then come shows like Pardon the Interruption and Around the Horn, staples that viewers didn't just yearn for highlights and information anymore. They wanted spirited discussion, debates, opinions. That opened the door for something else. There's another word for all of this, an insidious word, the take, a cheap and profitable format that became too much of the recipe for ESPN. Which takes us to the fall, not the season, the fall of ESPN.
Just gut feeling. Tebow has become the most polarizing athlete in the history of American sports. Now, I can't speak worldwide, but I'm just from what I know here.
What?
Johnny Manziel will become even bigger in the city of Cleveland than his buddy and business partner LeBron James ever was.
Tom Brady's just about done. It could be his next game he plays, it could be a year from now, but he is going to fall off a cliff. Tom Brady is going to be a bum in short order.
Of everyone on Golden State, open shot, fate of the universe on the line, or the Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth, you better hit it. I want Iguodala. That's right.
The landscape of sports television has undergone a significant transformation in recent years, marked by the rise of take culture. This phenomenon has led to a shift in the way sports news and analysis are presented, with a greater emphasis on provocative opinions, debates, and sensationalism. Social media has helped fuel that as well. A debate show doesn't have to be good for 3 hours, no, but it must have one or two dumb and shareable moments that people will pass around like free weed. That's right, Steven. Take culture can quickly be characterized by the proliferation of pundits and analysts who prioritize delivering a polarizing, contrarian opinion, often at the expense of well-rounded analysis. The aim is to create content that sparks debate and drives viewership, whether you loved or hated what was being said. This approach has given rise to a new breed of sports television, with ESPN's First Take serving as a prominent example. Enter the Grand Wizard of Takeage, a man who wrote a book implying Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman was gay. A man who averaged 2 points per game in high school basketball.
Did you average 1.4 points as a senior in high school?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so all of that Pistol P stuff, Water Pistol Pete Jr.
A man who embraced Tim Tebow, but could never accept the greatness of LeBron James. By the way, I'd like to pay an independent auditor to pour through years and years of footage and figure out exactly how much time ESPN has wasted debating LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Anyway, I'm talking about Skip Bayless, a seasoned sports journalist. And I say journalist when I really mean provocateur, who gained prominence as one of the pioneers of take culture through his role as a co-host on ESPN's First Take, a show that began as a segment on ESPN2's Cold Pizza but quickly overshadowed the entire program. First Take, which debuted in 2007, quickly became known for its heated debates and controversial discussions. Bayless became a lightning rod for criticism and a catalyst for the rise of dumbed-down sports television. The problem with Skip and the breed of analyst he spawned is simple but insidious. It's largely performance art. He says things he doesn't believe. He plays a character, an exaggerated version of himself. Bayless proved that while there's a modest market for well thought out and reasoned analysis, the pro wrestling version of sports talk will always keep people tuning in and asking for more. It stirs up emotion for the viewer, for better or worse. Now, Bayless wasn't the first to polarize viewers or listeners. Shock Jock Radio came first, and legends like Mike and the Mad Dog contributed to take culture away from the mothership of ESPN. But it always felt like Mike Francesca and Christopher Russo, while they could say some outlandish things, were well-informed, and they genuinely believed most of what came out of their mouths. The constant scrutiny and sensationalism inherent in hot takes has almost certainly impacted the mental health of athletes, especially paired with the advent of Twitter, which just happened to coincide with this shift from talk to take. Pro and college athletes are subject to relentless criticism, personal attacks, and the pressure to perform under intense scrutiny more so than ever before, especially with our unprecedented access into their lives via social media. You can literally DM most athletes death threats, when before you had to be a man and say that shit from the stands, or take hours of research time to figure out how to handwrite them something hateful like a true psychopath.
Out of all the thousands of letters that I got one that was negative, that was bad. Okay? And all it was an index card, a 4x6 index card, and on it said, "You suck!" Exclamation point.
A great example of this pressure was most recently Wemby's pro debut in the Summer League. The number one pick in the NBA draft, torn to shreds for playing poorly in checks notes, his first ever action in a meaningless game. Part of what I think has turned people off from ESPN is that it's leaned too far into sensational narratives, which can distort public perception, leading to increased scrutiny, unfair judgments, and heightened stress for athletes.
You know, it's interesting when you have a injury. so to speak, and you have a knee injury or my hand or it's an ankle sprain, it's a lot different when you can't see it and somebody doesn't know what's going on outside the lines.
I know a lot of people ashamed to talk about it. Even myself for a long period of time, people wonder why I was such a quiet guy, and that was part of it, not wanting to speak out about it, not wanting other people know exactly what I was going through.
Hasn't been an easy journey, but it's definitely been worth it, and I'm so happy to be a voice for the voiceless and to kind of put not so much of a stigma on mental health, because I feel like it impacts everybody and affects everybody on a daily basis.
You only get one go around. You only get one try at this, so you don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be what you see on social media. You should just show who you are in the best way you can.
And while I'm not saying athletes never had to reckon with mental health before 2007 or that Skip Bayless is personally responsible for sending them to therapy, I do think a more hostile media plays a big part in this. I am saying, though, that Skip should have to pay for their therapy. The rise of the disingenuous sports media and polarized news, whether it's Fox, CNN, or MSNBC, can be attributed to a few different factors. The 24-hour news cycle, the pressure to generate revenue, the influence of social media, and the push towards personalized content via algorithms all contribute to the reinforcement of existing biases. Sometimes I struggle to fill 14 minutes here on YouTube after an entire weekend of sports news. I can't imagine having to do a full day every day of content. Now, Skip Bayless may have left ESPN after a very, very lucrative tenure. I mean, all you need to know about the guy's net worth is that he has a low microwave, a rich man's microwave height. But in Bayless's wake, a slew of take artists have appeared to battle for the crown. And once reasonable on-air personalities have felt the pressure to become the absurdist versions of themselves. Guys like Colin Cowherd, Jason Whitlock, Max Kellerman, and of course Nick Wright have all put on the clown makeup in recent years and have reaped the monetary rewards while becoming reviled by the thinking sports fan. People like me, who are always right and never exaggerate anything. And when I do, it's usually with a wink.
Russell Wilson is going to win MVP.
That's just not true. That's not going to happen.
There's certainly a balance between hot takery and having a genuine, unique perspective on sports and life. There's a balance with that in programming as well, and I think all the sports networks lean too heavily into the hot take programming. With balance, there's one guy in particular that comes to mind, and I want to discuss his wild ride at ESPN. His release was one of ESPN's biggest mistakes. I'm talking about Bill Simmons, but real quickly, when you think about some of the people ESPN has let go, Dan Patrick, massively successful on his own. Rich Eisen got away, went to the NFL Network. Dan Le Batard recently started his own company. All of these talented people seem to get too big for ESPN. That's a problem in and of itself because ESPN was and is the biggest place. They should all have been allowed to spread their wings and do whatever they wanted rather than be restricted by the sports network and how ESPN wanted to do things. And I think Bill Simmons is the best example of ESPN's biggest fuck up. Bill Simmons, who was essentially just a dude from Boston with an influential internet column in the late 90s, began his career at ESPN in 2001, quickly rising to prominence for his inimitable voice and compelling prose on ESPN.com's page 2. Simmons stretched the definition of a sports writer, marrying it with pop culture and even his own life experiences. He also wasn't a journalist, nor did he pretend to be a journalist. There was no special access other than his own perspective on things. You felt like you were reading the words of a college buddy who just happened to be a profoundly talented and pioneering writer. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Bill Simmons was ESPN's Hunter S. Thompson. In addition to his writing, Simmons launched the popular podcast, The BS Report, where he conducted in-depth interviews with athletes, celebrities, and experts across various fields. The podcast's conversational format and Simmons' ability to extract compelling stories and insights further solidified his reputation as a top sports commentator. Simmons also played a significant role in the creation of Grantland, an ESPN-affiliated website that focused on long-form sports and pop culture journalism. Grantland became a hub for talented writers, a bastion of the old style of sports journalism. There was hardly a word count, and the site was exempt from the network's usual rules about obscenity. It was beautiful. And of course, ESPN shut that shit down. More than anything, ESPN's inability to see the future has murdered their reputation. It used to be cool, and now it's just a thing that's forced upon you, like Google Plus was. In 2015, ESPN and Simmons parted ways. The decision came after a series of incidents, including a suspension Simmons received for critical comments about NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, calling him a liar and giving him endless shit for Deflategate, and a bunch of botched suspensions like Ray Rice's original 2-game timeout after punching his wife in the face in 2014.
Some of this stuff, like the Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, the Deflategate, was embarrassing because ESPN was in the middle of that story with bad reporting. And then when everyone kind of turned on Goodell in July and August, you didn't really see anything on ESPN. You saw it everywhere else, but from an opinion standpoint, you didn't see it.
The criticism of Goodell and Deflategate is really interesting. Dave Portnoy, who founded Barstool Sports, a frat boy version of Bill Simmons really, watched his sports website skyrocket because he got arrested at the NFL headquarters protesting the commissioner and Deflategate. The thing ESPN was trying to squash is what fueled Barstool's rise. ESPN was forced to kiss the commissioner's arse because of their multi-billion-dollar TV deals. That constraint, which held Simmons back, is one of the things that started to chip away at ESPN's popularity and market share. Their inability to keep shit real became one of their contributing factors to their demise. So instead of embracing that unique POV, they suspended Bill Simmons. His suspension was a breaking point in his relationship with the network. Following his departure, Simmons went on to launch his own media venture. You may have heard of it, The Ringer, which includes a website, podcasts, and video content, which eventually became worth $200 million when Spotify bought it. ESPN watched a future competitor grow in Barstool and lost one of the few guys who could have helped them compete with Barstool in Bill Simmons, and by letting him go, created more competition for their brand. But before Simmons split with ESPN, he left behind one of its greatest treasures, ESPN's film series, 30 for 30, a documentary series that explores compelling sports stories from a variety of angles. It was created in 2009 to celebrate ESPN's 30th anniversary and has since become one of the network's most renowned and acclaimed franchises. The series was conceived by Bill Simmons in collaboration with ESPN Films.
People out there think that women can't do this is just nonsense.
The NFL owners promise stadiums will not remain empty, even if it means replacing strikers.
Hopefully it won't come to scab games and picket signs.
The real key is going to be the solidarity of the players.
I don't ever want to be mentioned in the same breath as Ricky Williams as a football player.
Everybody had this guy as, we're doing a deal with the devil here.
He's a disgrace to the game.
Indiana, Knicks, those were blood battles.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here, please?
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson.
It's one of those things, everybody knows what 30 for 30 is. The docuseries covered a wide array of topics, delving into iconic moments, forgotten stories, and the intersection of sports with broader social and cultural issues. Each film typically an hour or two in length, had its own director, allowing for unique artistic approaches and storytelling styles. And it debuted with the documentary King's Ransom in October of 2009, directed by Peter Berg, who, if you don't know, also directed this.
You don't move, your head is going up his ass. Asshole.
It chronicled the infamous trade of hockey superstar Wayne Gretzky from the Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles Kings and received critical acclaim, setting the stage for the series' success. Over the years, 30 for 30 released some absolute juggernauts of films, exploring a wide range of topics and capturing the attention of both sports fans and general audiences. Some of the most notable films include...
This is the story of Andres Escobar and Pablo Escobar. Both had the same last name, although there was no blood relation. Andres grew up to become the most beloved player in the history of Colombian soccer. And Pablo rose through the ranks of the criminal underground and was also arguably the secret weapon behind what was an unprecedented rise in Colombian soccer.
And OJ Made in America, a multi-part documentary that examined the rise and fall of the juice while reflecting on racial tensions in Los Angeles, that won an Oscar for Best Documentary because technically I think it was shown in theaters for like a day. Maybe I'll show this video in theaters for the required time and see if I too can't win one of those bad boys. Look, the 30 for 30 series gained a reputation for its high production quality, compelling storytelling, and the ability to appeal to both sports enthusiasts and non-sports viewers. Even after Simmons started the ringer, 30 for 30 lives on. But the sports guy's exodus marked a tumultuous go of things at the top of ESPN, starting with a guy by the name of John Skipper. Before John Skipper ran ESPN, he worked for Rolling Stone magazine as an associate editor, where he contributed to the publication's coverage of music, pop culture, and sports. In 1997, he joined ESPN as the senior vice president and general manager of ESPN the magazine. You know, the one that has the body issue? Thank you, John Skipper, for leaving little to my imagination about Saquon Barkley's naked body. Skipper climbed the ladder, serving as the executive vice president of content, responsible for overseeing ESPN's programming across various platforms, including TV, digital media, and print. Under Skipper, ESPN was no longer just a television network, it was a brand that encompassed not one platform, but media as a whole. Finally, in January of 2012, Skipper reached the pinnacle of his career at ESPN when he was appointed the network's president. As the top dog, Skipper was committed to spin-off projects like the aforementioned 30 for 30 in Grantland, but also 538 and The Undefeated. ESPN became more diverse under Skipper's tenure and at first was raking in a lot of cash, even as naturally ESPN faced a lot of online criticism for its increased diversity in both race and gender and the implications of that. More political discussion that probably came to a head around the time Colin Kaepernick took a knee and Donald Trump won the 2016 election. A lot of people, unsurprisingly, were pretty upset. And that's generally what happens when a sports network decides to delve into politics, even when those politics are sports adjacent. But John Skipper had another problem. ESPN was losing subscribers at an alarming rate as people moved towards streaming and began cutting their cable cords. ESPN lost 4% of its subscribers in May of 2017 alone. Is that because of their more political approach to content, or was that a natural evolution in TV that every network has reckoned with? Honestly, probably a little bit of both. Their TV dominance peaked in 2011 and hit an all-time low in 2020. Everything suffered in 2020 and ESPN is back on track now, but you have to separate live sports viewership and original programming viewership, and right now I'm keying in on their original programming. It didn't help that there was serious competition. not just on the horizon, but fully in the picture. NFL, MLB, and NBA, they all had their own dedicated sports networks. Fox Sports 1 had emerged as a sort of ESPN clone. And of course, YouTube had fully emerged as a growing space for highlights and independent sports content. You know, like me, guys like me, and eventually Pat McAfee. All of that competition jacked up the price of the broadcasting rights for Monday Night Football, the NBA, and MLB, and that meant Skipper would have to perform some brutal layoffs for people behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Trent Dilfer, Danny Cannell, and the late, great John Clayton, all gone. Meanwhile, ESPN talent like Aaron Andrews, Colin Cowherd, Carissa Thompson, and Mike Hill all left for Fox Sports. I mentioned him earlier, Skip Bayless also went over to Fox Sports. Their excellent Monday Night Football play-by-play man, Mike Tirico, left the gig in favor of NBC, where he waited behind Al Michaels before finally taking over Sunday Night Football in 2022. Tirico's departure left a huge hole in the booth for ESPN as they shifted from him and John Gruden to John Gruden and Sean McDonough, and Gruden to Joe Tessitore, Jason Witten, Booger McFarland to Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Louis Riddick. Revolving door for what was once an iconic trio or duo of announcers and broadcasters that people cared about. ESPN finally hit Fox back when they signed Joe Buck and Troy Aikman prior to the 2022 season, and somewhere in the middle of all of this, Sergio Dip was indeed having the time of his life.
Here on the field, from up close, just watching Coach Vance Joseph from here. You watch him now on the screen. This diversity in his background is helping him a lot tonight. Quarterback at Colorado, defensive back in the NFL, and here he is, having the time of his life.
However, it was not Skipper, but rather his successor who would have to deal with the wake of these changes, as Skipper's career at ESPN took a very unexpected turn in 2017 when he was forced to resign due to an extortion attempt related to his drug use. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Skipper disclosed that he had bought drugs from an individual who subsequently threatened him and his family. Rather than risk his family, he decided to disclose the details to his family and subsequently to Disney CEO Bob Iger, who is back now and hired Pat McAfee. Together, they concluded that Skipper had placed the company in a rather awkward position, leading to his resignation from ESPN in December 2017. 2017 wasn't that long ago, and think about how much has changed just in that time to today. Skipper was let go for using drugs by Bob Iger, who set the deal with Pat McAfee, who openly talks about smoking weed. Shit has changed.
If you're somebody out there that hates marijuana, I understand, I appreciate you, but you're fucking wrong.
But the lesson here is simple. Do not buy drugs. Just do them with your friends when they offer them to you for free. Even as ESPN delves into the streaming game with ESPN Plus, which is tied to Disney Plus and Hulu Plus, they do have a backstop when it comes to cord cutters, which at this point, I think I know more people who don't have cable than do. However, the misconception is that ESPN is failing. That's not true at all. It is changing, and it's catching up to meeting viewers where they watch. According to Axios, ESPN Digital attracted a record 120 million unique visitors in October, including 95.2 million to ESPN.com alone. ESPN is Disney's largest social media brand, generating 63% of the company's total actions on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As cable hemorrhages subscribers, ESPN's digital viewership is growing and their audience is bigger than its TV peak total from 2011. They do have a slam dunk hit on their hands with the Manning cast. Peyton and Eli Manning talking to guests during Monday Night Football games is a huge win for ESPN, as the way people want to consume live games is changing. And if ESPN wants to thrive, they need to double down on that formula, providing even more ways to watch along games. Now, the common narrative following the 2023 ESPN layoffs is that the network had to make room for Pat McAfee. I did a whole video on that, but that's not quite true. When COVID essentially shut down the world in 2020, ESPN's parent company, Disney, had one of its biggest moneymakers put on the shelf when they had to shut down their theme parks. That and all of the drama with Ron DeSantis in Florida and the don't say gay stuff that I don't even want to get started on here. Actually, you know what? I dare Ron DeSantis to watch a Chiefs defense and try not to say gay.
Picked up by Willie Gay!
Anyway, Disney didn't just target ESPN. Mickey Mouse had to personally execute 7,000 employees worldwide, which is roughly 3 to 4% of the overall Disney workforce. But when you lay off on-air personalities at ESPN, especially ones that we have known for very long, it gets noticed. Names like Susie Colbert, Steve Young, Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, and more. It's jarring when we see those familiar faces go. Susie Colbert has been a mainstay at ABC and ESPN who deserved a Purple Heart for gracefully fending off the advances of a drunk Joe Namath in primetime.
What does it mean to you now when the team is struggling?
I want to kiss you.
But all good things do come to an end, and instead of clinging onto ESPN's past, I think it's time to dive headfirst into its future. It's not just ESPN figuring stuff out. It's everyone in every business in the space. Shannon Sharpe left Skip Bayless's show. Another example of individuals having leverage as talent when they build their own brand. Sharpe's abrupt exit left Skip Bayless like this.
Charles Barkley would be my dream debate partner on Undisputed. Please, Charles, please come and please work with me.
The fact that filling that spot, that lucrative spot, is not as easy as Skip and FS1 thought is proof the idea of what sports media should be has already changed. ESPN is signaling a radical turn into that future by signing Pat McAfee. And Stephen A. Smith said it pretty well on his own show.
You think I'm looking at Pat McAfee and I'm upset? I'm thankful. Thank you. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you very, very much. Today is your turn. Tomorrow's mine. It's accepting and embracing business. Every day I wake up. How do I make my bosses more money? How do I get some of it?
You can argue that instead of spending a truly audacious sum of money on McAfee, $85 million to be exact, they could have tried to develop the next McAfee. Guys like Will Compton and Taylor Lewan, guys who have a clear talent for speaking into the mic, have an easy rapport with guests and one another, and have access to current and former athletes. ESPN still does have a lot of money to work with. The most, actually, and rather than take a chance on an up-and-comer, they decided to back the Brinks truck up for an established star. Because it sure fucking worked when they paid Peyton and Eli to do the Manning cast during Monday Night Football. What it all boils down to is, will ESPN let Pat McAfee be Pat McAfee? It's hard to say. Back in 2017, ESPN made an uneasy alliance with Barstool Sports when they brought over Big Cat and PFT commenter to make precisely one episode of Barstool Van Talk before it was canceled because of a beef between Dave Portnoy and Sam Ponder, the host of NFL Sunday Countdown. Boy, did ESPN bet wrong on that one. Of course, it always felt weird given the podcast, Pardon My Take, was literally making fun of two ESPN shows, Pardon the Interruption and First Take. I think ESPN's approach until McAfee has been bring in the names that are kicking our ass and then don't allow those names to do what made them successful in the first place. They have to prove they are better than that now. ESPN doesn't have a particularly rich history of letting their on-air personalities be themselves. Well, they did early on, right?
Chad Pennington back to start for the Jets. Swing pass to Curtis, my favorite Martin. Now watch this. Damian Shelton shovels it to Mark Brown. Uh-oh, what's going on here?
Kobe Bryant went off. Command Center, this is Kangaroo Boxer requesting permission to fire. Kangaroo Boxer permission granted. 7 of 13 from 3 land. I don't believe the box score that I'm reading to you. Swoops, there it is. Booyah. Call Konerko butter, because he is on a roll.
But as TV personalities evolved and became, for a lack of a better word, crazier, ESPN seemed to give their TV faces less freedom than even cable news. I used to watch SportsCenter after the golden age of the show and feel like the anchors were made in a lab. ESPN personalities used to be banned from appearing on rival networks, radio shows, or podcasts. They were truly beholden to the network until they eventually softened on the issue, and I think cross-promotion has, been a good thing for them and is a big reason why someone like Mina has emerged as a star in the past few years. The rise of smart analysts like Kimes or JJ Redick shows that there's still a market for thoughtfulness over hot takes. Hell, I think that was proven correct when SportsCenter went with Scott Van Pelt, and that show averaged over 900,000 viewers in 2023. Giving him the keys to SportsCenter was smart. Van Pelt is amazing, but this sound just doesn't hit like it used to, and I don't think it ever will again. ESPN will never return to its former glory, but I don't think it is going up in smoke either. It can't ever be what it was, but almost no TV show or network can at this point. It's probably too big to ever be cool again, ESPN. And I think the amount of shit Pat McAfee took after inking the deal is a sign of how ESPN is viewed by passionate and just general sports fans. Again, that tone may change after we see what that marriage looks like, and how ESPN evolves with more McAfee and Manning cast ideas. ESPN can and most likely will continue to be the biggest sports network in the world. It will continue to be a victim of market saturation as well. Just look at all of these options we have for sports media consumption. That list is insane. There is too much choice. The network is in the process of slowly and possibly reinventing itself, and that will eventually pay dividends, even if that means ESPN swallows up and buys all of its competitors. My price, $25 million. Make me go away, ESPN. And may you eventually return to
cool as the other side of the pillow.
Thanks for watching this behemoth deep dive into ESPN here on That's Good Sports. If you liked it, please subscribe here, so one day some future YouTuber can make a video called The Rise and Fall of That's Good Sports.